Hi everyone, it's Lisa Mears. Thank you for joining me today. In today's video, I'm going to be making 3 cards using some brand new products from Pretty Pink Posh. And these products are from their February release, which is all about birthdays. For one of my cards, I'll be using the Birthday Wreath stamp set. You can see that it's a wreath with several birthday icons such as party hats, balloons, birthday cakes, and presents. And there are also some larger individual stamped images such as a balloon, presents, there's a cupcake, there's a slice of cake, and there are also some sentiments such as make a wish and happy birthday. So I went ahead and stamped out the birthday wreath onto some Spectrum Noir Ultra Smooth cardstock, and I'm coloring it up with my Copic markers. So when I color this wreath up, I like to find one of the images, color it a certain color, and then find the other images in this stamp set that are identical and color it up the same exact way. So you can see those large presents that I colored there in purple and now orange. I'm making sure that both of the large presents in the stamp set are colored identical. It just is easiest for me when coloring this way. So you can see that all of the cake pieces I colored the same exact color. You can see that they're pink and they're yellow. Then I go on and I'm coloring up some of the smaller presents. I have some red and some blue for those smaller presents, and it's just time saving. You already have the color out, so you might as well just color all of the images in those same colors. Now you can do it any way you wish. I just found this the easiest method that works for me and the quickest. Now before I continue, I do want to just interrupt here and mention that all of the product links for all of the products that I use in this video will be listed down in the YouTube description box and on my blog. So if you are interested in any of these products, you can check out that description box and my blog at lisamearsdesigns.com. So this card is going to be a shaker card. I'm also going to be making another shaker card in this video. And I'm also going to be using all of the stencils that are new to Pretty Pink Posh. They are layering stencils and they're so awesome, and you'll see those coming up here. And in just a few minutes, you're going to see me coloring up a mouse, and that mouse is going to be from a stamp set from Pretty Pink Posh. It is the Crafty Critters stamp set. I do want to mention, as you see me incorporate the mouse, there's also a koala bear in that stamp set, and as you see me incorporate those in my cards today, I want to just give you a heads up that that stamp set is not available for purchase at this time. It actually was a promotion that Pretty Pink Posh was having. If you spend a certain amount of money in their shop, they would give you the stamp set for free. I'm not sure if that promotion is still going on. You would have to check with Pretty Pink Posh on that, but I do want to just mention that because you will see those stamps in my video. So here is one of the stamps in the Crafty Critters stamp set. I'm going to add this little mouse on my card. I think he's so cute. I'm going to go ahead and color him up with my Copic markers. I'm using 2 color tones for this mouse. I have the pink for the ears and the belly, and then I'm going to color in some grays for the rest of the body. And all of the colors that I use for my Copic markers, I will have them listed down in the description box. So that way, if you want to duplicate any of these colors, you can head on down there and take a look at those. The colors will also be in my blog. So here are the dies that coordinate with the birthday wreath. I'm just using my wire cutters and just cutting all of the dies apart. I'm going to line the die up with the stamped image and die cut that out, and then I'm going to die cut out the mouse as well. So moving on, I'm going to use the Scallop Circle die, and I die cut it out of pink cardstock and white cardstock. You can see it cuts out a frame as well as the inside piece. I'm going to set that aside for now, and in the meantime I have a piece of acetate that I'm just going to cut so that it is the same size as that birthday wreath, because remember, this is going to be a shaker card, so I need some acetate to cover up the hole in the middle of that wreath. Once I have that acetate cut to size, I'm going to glue it onto the back of the wreath. So I'm just adding some liquid glue to the back of the wreath, and I'll go ahead and add my acetate to the back. Next, I'm going to take that wreath and I'm going to add it to the pink scalloped frame. That way a little bit of pink is showing beyond that wreath. Next, I'm going to create a background for my card panel, and I'm going to use the Layered Candles stencil. This stencil comes in a set of 3 different stencils that you can create a layered look with your candles. And if you look at the very bottom right hand corner of each stencil, it will tell you which one you use first. So there's an A, B, and a C. I'm actually using the B stencil first, which is the stencil for the flames of the candles. You can actually use A or B in any order. The A stencil is the actual candle itself. So I'm going to actually use that one second and use the flames first. So I just lined up the stencil on my piece of cardstock. I am using a piece of Bristol smooth cardstock that I cut down to 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And I'm using the carved pumpkin distress oxide ink to ink up those candle flames. Once that stencil is all inked up, I remove it, and then I'm going to go in with the second stencil, which is the actual body of the candle. I go ahead and line that up with the flames on the paper, and then I go ahead and start inking up those candles. So for the first row of candles, I'm using tumbled glass. The second row of candles is spun sugar. The third row of candles is squeezed lemonade, and then the last row is the twisted citron. This is the third stencil. This one definitely needs to go last because it's going to put the design on your candles. Now, you don't have to use this stencil if you don't want the design, but if you want the design, go ahead and line that up with the candles and go ahead and ink them up. So with the first row of candles, I'm using a darker blue. This is the Mermaid Lagoon. Once I finish that, I'm going to move on to the pink row of candles. I'm coming in with a darker pink. This is the Picked Raspberry. And then with the third row of candles, I'm going to come in with a darker yellow, and I'm going to come in with the Fossilized Amber Distress Oxide ink. And lastly, the last row, I'm coming back in with the Twisted Citron. Same ink I initially applied. I'm just adding a little bit darker coverage here. I didn't have a darker green ink that I liked to complement this one, so I just added the same color ink to that row. Next, I'm taking a piece of vellum. I cut it down to be the same exact size as that candle cardstock. It's 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And I'm adding some double-sided adhesive tape to the edges. This tape is about 1/4 inch thick, and I'm just outlining the entire piece of vellum in a rectangle, and I'm just going to use my bone folder just to press that tape down really well. I'm going to remove the adhesive backing, and I'm going to put this vellum on top of that candle panel just to soften the colors, because right now if I add that wreath to the top, it kind of has a lot of colors going on, so I wanted to soften the color of the candles so it didn't look too busy. So after I add the vellum, I'm going to go ahead and add the white inside piece of that scallop frame. So I just put some double-sided tape on the back, and I'm going to go and add that to the center. Next, I'm going to put that panel in my MISTI. I want to stamp out the Make-A-Wish stamp inside of that white scallop. I want to make sure that it is going to be centered and be able to be seen through the wreath. So that's why I was positioning the wreath over top of that, just to kind of get a feel for where I need to stamp it out. So after I stamp it out, next I'm going to add some double-sided adhesive foam around the circle opening. And the reason I'm doing this is because this is the foam that's going to keep all of the shaker bits in place. You want to make sure that when you add your foam, there are no gaps in the foam, so you don't want to have any open spaces because you don't want to take a chance of any of your shaker bits falling out of those holes. I'm going to go ahead and add another piece of foam just for stability and support when this wreath goes on my cardstock layer. I want to make sure that the entire wreath will lay flat and be stable on that card front. So here I'm going to go ahead and add some of these clay shaker pieces. These are the Rainbow Sprinkles mix. They are new to Pretty Pink Posh. So I'm just laying them here in the center of this white piece on my card front. And then I'm going to pull back the adhesive backing off of that foam. And I'm going to add that wreath right to the top of those shaker pieces. Next, I'm going to add my little mouse to the front of this wreath. I did put some foam on the back, and I'm going to go ahead and add him down. I'm also going to pop a little candle in his hand. This candle is one of the candles from the birthday wreath stamp set. And now I'm just going to add this to a pink A2 size card base, and that will complete this card. For my next card, I am going to be using the layered cupcake stencil. So you can see the 3 stencils that are part of this stencil pack. I'm going to start out by using the stencil that has the bottom portion of the cupcake. So I'm just lining that up here on my Bristol Smooth cardstock. That Bristol Smooth cardstock is cut to 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. I'm using my sponge sugar Distress Oxide ink to ink up the bottoms of those cupcakes. And once that's finished, I'm going to move on to my next stencil, which I'm going to use the tops of the cupcakes. So I'm just lining those stencils up with the bottom part of the cupcakes that I've already inked, and I'm going to be using the Antique Linen Distress Oxide inks to color those up. If you wanted to use different colors here, you most certainly can do that, but I chose to keep them all with the vanilla cake topping. So now I'm using my third and last stencil. This is the designs that are on these cupcakes. So I'm just lining them up on my cardstock that's underneath. Once I have it lined up, I'm going to go ahead and start inking them up. I'm going to use the Mermaid Lagoon Distress Oxide ink, and I'm going to color every other one in this Mermaid Lagoon ink. So I color cupcakes 1, 3, and then I come down to the second row and I skip over to the second one and color the fourth one, so on and so forth. Then I'm going to come in with Twisted Citron and color the remaining cupcake toppings in this Twisted Citron ink. Once those are all colored, I'm going to come in and color up the bottom part of the design, and that is going to be in the Picked Raspberry, and all of the bottoms are going to be in this darker pink. So remember that the lighter pink, which is the solid background of the bottoms of the cupcakes, was in the Spun Sugar, which is a light pink, and then the darker pink, which is the Picked Raspberry, is the design. So here's a look at what that stencil looks like when it's all colored in. For my card, I am also going to have this koala stamp. So I went ahead and stamped this out onto my Spectrum Noir Ultra Smooth cardstock and just coloring it up with my Copic markers. I'm coloring the body part gray, and I added the C4 Copic marker around the edges, blended that in with the C3, and then just coming in now with the C1. And then I'm going to blend that out with my C0. And I'm not going to come all the way out to the center. I'm still going to leave some of the center part white. And for the pink, I'm using the R11 and R01. These are all the same colors that I used for the mouse in the previous card. I'm also going to be bringing in the Celebrate word die. This is also part of the Pretty Pink Posh birthday release here in February. I die cut it out with some blue cardstock, and I also die cut it out with some silver glitter cardstock, and I'm just using the silver glitter cardstock as kind of like a shadow. So I added glue to the back of the blue cardstock, and I'm offsetting it onto the silver glitter cardstock just so that you can see a little bit of that silver peeking on the edge. Next, I die cut a scallop border die out of some white cardstock, and I did add that scallop border along the bottom edge of that card layer. And then I'm going to add the word Celebrate on the white portion of that cardstock layer. And I'm going to add the koala to the card as well. I'm just putting some scrap cardstock on the ears and on the back of the head because part of that koala is going to go off of that scallop, and I want to make sure that it is even and pressed firmly onto that card front, so I had to add some extra layers of cardstock underneath him. The cupcake and the candle are also from the birthday wreath stamp set, so I added those there as well. And then I'm going to add some of the pearls that came in the February release. These pearls are Blue Sky, Flamingo, and Sunshine. So I'm just gluing them on to the front of this card. And then when this panel is finished, I'm going to add this card front to a piece of blue cardstock that measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. This blue cardstock is the same exact color that I die cut the word celebrate from. And then I'll add that entire layer to an A2 size white card base. And that card base is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. And that will complete this second card. So for my third card, I'm going to be using the Layered Presents stencil. I start out with a piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock that's 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and I lined up my first stencil. This is a 3-part stencil, and this stencil has all of the shapes of the presents, so I went ahead and used my sponge sugar ink and colored those all pink, and now I'm lining up the design of all of those presents. So some of these designs are stripes, some are polka dots, some are stars. So I go ahead and line that stencil up, and I'm going to use various color inks. So here I have fossilized amber I'm using for all of the star shapes. I'm moving on to Dusty Concord, and I'm using that for all of my polka dot shapes. And notice that I'm also using a finger blending brush. I didn't want to use a very big blending brush because I want to make sure that I keep my ink confined to the small space that I'm ink blending. And then I move on and use the Mermaid Lagoon, and I use that on all of the striped pieces. Well, not all of them, but all of the large striped pieces, and I come in on the smaller striped pieces with the Dusty Concord. So I go ahead and remove that stencil, and I'm ready to line up my third stencil. This one is the ribbon on the presents. So line that up, and then I'm going to use the cracked pistachio for all of the ribbon. And here's what that looks like once all of those 3 stencils are complete. Next, I die cut a scallop rectangle frame from some blue cardstock, and since this is going to be a shaker card, I'm taking that frame and I'm going to glue it down to some acetate. So I'm just putting glue on the back of this frame, pressing it down on top of the acetate, and then I will be able to trim away the excess acetate. So this is very easy to do because you have a straight edge on the frame, so you can just take your scissors and just cut away the acetate that you don't need, the acetate that just extends beyond the edge of this frame. Next, I'm going to turn that frame over, so I'm looking at the back, and I'm going to add some double-sided adhesive foam strips around the outline of this rectangle. This is going to keep all of my shaker bits inside. Make sure when you're adding the foam that you don't leave any gaps between the pieces of foam because you don't want your shaker pieces to fall out of empty holes. Now, because my shaker pieces are a little bit thicker, I decide to go in and add another layer of foam to the rectangle. So what I'm doing is I'm just pulling back the adhesive tape on the previous layer of foam and then adding another layer of foam right on top. And what this is doing is going to heighten my shaker piece. The actual rectangle itself will be thicker, which will allow for thicker pieces of shaker bits inside. If I don't add that extra layer of foam, then my shaker pieces may not have enough room inside of the shaker component to move around freely. So the shaker pieces that I'm using are called Pinata Party Mix, and these are part of the February release from Pretty Pink Posh. And now I'm just peeling back the backing of that adhesive foam, and I'm going to put my rectangle shaker right on top of the shaker pieces, just making sure that it is centered on this card front. I die cut the word birthday from the birthday wishes script word die. This is also part of the Pretty Pink Posh February release. Die cut it out of some pink cardstock and some white cardstock, and just like with the previous card, I'm just offsetting the pink cardstock on the white cardstock just so you can see a little bit of that white peeking through. Next, I'm using the Birthday Scripts stamp set, and I love this stamp set because there are all of these birthday related words, and you can combine these words into different sentiments. So you can say, let's celebrate, happy birthday, birthday blessings, it's a party, and there's so many other ways you can put these stamps together for sentiments on your cards. Here I'm taking the word happy and I'm stamping it out on top of this balloon from the Birthday Wreath stamp set. And I'm going to go ahead and add the word birthday that I die cut out. I'm going to add that to the front of the rectangle. And then I'm also going to add the koala and the happy with the balloon right there on top. I love how the word happy fits perfectly inside of that balloon from the Birthday Wreath stamp set. Next, I'm going to take one of the hot pink shaker pieces and I'm adding it to dot the I in the word birthday. And then I'm going to add that layer to a piece of blue cardstock that measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And then that layer will be added to an A2 size card base. Lastly, I'm going to take some of the stars out of that Pinata Party mix and I'm going to add some to the front of the card just for some extra accents. And that's going to complete this third card. Again, all links will be down in the description box. As always, if you like this video, please click that like button and be sure to subscribe for more card making tutorials. Thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day. Bye-bye.